Hello and welcome. US star Sam Elliott in this 1985 audio interview talks about the Oscar-winning movie Mask, in which he co-stars with Cher and which was to make him a bankable actor in Hollywood. Sam also recalls some of the behind-the-scenes conflicts involving Cher, director Peter Bogdanovich, and the edits to the film made at the time by Universal Studios. Now, if you haven't seen the film, Sam played Cher's biker boyfriend. Mask was based on a true story about a teenager with a facial skull deformity and his mother's struggles to enable him to live as normal a life as possible. Sam's performance, while it didn't win an Oscar nomination, made many movie directors pay close attention to this mustachioed actor with a deep, raspy voice. And he hasn't stopped working since, with roles across film and TV ranging through westerns, comedies, police thrillers, sports, dramas and science fiction. He also co-starred as Bradley Cooper's brother in the Lady Gaga film A Star Is Born. And as I said, I caught up with Sam in 1985, shortly after Mask was released, and not long after he married actress Catherine Ross and became a dad.
Let me say congratulations firstly about the film, because I don't know whether it happened there, but I was at the Cannes Film Festival and then back here a couple of weeks later, and Cher came out. And of course, Cher has been, I guess, stirring up her own publicity trail and getting it. And not a lot of people stopped to talk publicly about Sam Elliott. But I must say that I did very much like your characterization and your work in the film.
I appreciate that, George. I was happy to see Cher, stirring up whatever she could on her own. I know Universal worked her pretty hard too, but I think this movie career has been a long time coming for her, and I think she's well deserving of it. So, I found her a really good lady to work with. I don't know if you met with her when she was over there in Sydney or not.
Yes, I did. Yes.
I liked her. I really did like her, and I know personally, because I was involved with her on a day-to-day basis, I know how much that picture meant to her, and I know how much work she put into it.
Well, she's certainly a straight shooter.
You have to give her one for that.
Yep.
You don't always like what she has to say, but at least she's honest about it.
True. The conflict that existed with Peter Bogdanovich, were you very much aware of that on the set?
That was going on from the get-go, from the beginning of production. I think they really kind of found out where each other stood, and then they kind of backed off of it, but it was there. It was underlying the whole way through.
How much effect do you think it had on the outcome of the picture? I mean, do you think it...
I don't think it had any at all as far as the quality of the film's concerned. The only real negative thing that came out of that, and I'm not even sure that it hurt the box office, I think it hurt Peter more on a personal level than it did as far as the business the film did, was all this dialogue about the ongoing problem with Cher, but primarily Peter's beef that he had with Universal in regard to the cut of the film, in regard to the Bruce Springsteen music.
Yeah.
That to me, and I've read a lot of press on the thing and talked to a lot of people over the last year, and the only negative thing that was said about that picture, ironically enough, came out of the director's mouth. In that regard, and I thought that was real unfortunate, because I think the film showed Peter, he still got something as a director.
Sure.
It was another shot for him, and I think any negative comments or feelings that came out of it were kind of a disservice to himself.
Right. How did you get on with him on the set?
He's an actor-director. Peter likes actors. I think he probably gets along better with men than he does women. And Cher, as you well know, is a real strong lady.
Sure.
Maybe her honesty kind of took him aback a little bit.
Yeah, I think that was probably...
Cher was convinced that nobody knew any better than she did how to portray that part, how to deal with that character she had to play. Peter's pretty domineering. He's real strong. He knows what he wants, and he says what he wants.
Yep.
They just had a difference of opinion early on, and it was unfortunate, but again, I don't think it really hurt the product in the end.
But I understand that you were signed on after they'd actually gone into production. Is that right?
They hadn't shot. No, they hadn't shot. They were still in pre-production when I was signed on.
Were you aware of the film and the character?
I was doing a series called The Yellow Rose, and I was working with Sybil Shepherd, who was one of Peter's ex-girlfriends. And she was the first one that brought this thing to my attention, and that she told me that, you know, Peter was looking for this Gary Cooper character that rides a Harley Davidson, you know, and it was real intriguing to me. And they later on called about a month after she first told me about it. They called and set up a meeting, and because I had a work conflict with the Yellow Rose, I ended up turning the meeting down 4 different times, or 3 different times, and then on the 4th meeting, I had the meeting with Peter and was signed for the part right after that.
So it wasn't, I mean, that's an interesting sort of comparison there, Gary Cooper. Did you see it as that sort of a role?
That came out of Peter's mouth. You know, Peter's angle on these bike characters, I don't think was really too true to life. You know, we refer to them a lot of the time as pussy bikers through the production. You know, they were real glossy, and Peter didn't want this to be a biker movie. He wanted to keep that really in the background, which I think he was successful in doing, but I don't particularly agree with it because, you know, the biker element was an integral part to Rocky's life.
Absolutely.
You know, you didn't want to see Rocky on Gar's bike, and there was a big, in all deference to Peter, there was a big funeral sequence in which there was 200 motorcycles involved, and all the bikers when one of the older characters, Harry Carey Jr., dies.
Yeah.
And that was real unfortunate because that was one of the sequences that Universal decided to cut out of the film. But they didn't cut it out because it wasn't being good. The picture was just too long. I think there was another hour worth of film that was every bit as good as what's in the final product that indeed shouldn't have even been shot.
Yeah. And you obviously went into it feeling that Gar and the other bikers should have been a lot tougher.
I tend to think that I always look for the realistic stuff. You know, I'm kind of put off by this stuff. You know, I mean, a certain amount of movies deal with fantasy, and certain, you know, and it isn't real. I'm not saying that it's all real and all that, but God, why not be realistic?
Sure.
Gar was a killer. Gar spent time in the joint. You know, Gar was a heavy drug user in real life, and you know, I mean, and that aspect of it, I think if you're going to do something about real people, then why not tell it the way it was? You know?
What sort of research did you do for the character?
All I could do is I got on a Harley Davidson 2 weeks before we started using it, and I rode every day, and that was all I did. I hung around with some bikers that we had one kid that was an ex-member of a local club here that was the technical advisor. He fixed me up with an old Harley, the one I in fact used in the picture, and I went down to a little town called El Segundo, which is on the coast right out of Los Angeles, and rode with him and a couple of his friends every day. Just getting to feel that bike, because that was the thing that I was most uncomfortable with, having not ridden before. And
Right.
I was very thankful that I did, because I got to where I really liked it and felt real comfortable on it.
Right. You've done, what, 3 or 4 pictures before, have you?
Mostly television. Most of my career has been in television.
Well, yeah, I know. The only thing I think that has been seen out here was Aspen. I don't recall Murder in Texas or The Sackets or Once an Eagle being on television out here. They may have been. Well, I definitely know Aspen was because I used to host a television show out here, a movie show, and our network owned the Aspen series, miniseries. But why? Why has it taken you so long to?
Like I said before, I'm kind of choosing what I do. That in itself doesn't make for working all the time. I did a film in 1974 called Lifeguard for Paramount. A real small film, but it did real well and was received real well. And potentially, you know, at that time in my career, I kind of thought maybe it was going to turn the corner for me, you know, but it really didn't have too much effect on it.
At that stage, how long had you been acting for?
I started in 67. That was in 1974. That's the way this town is, you know. I mean, it's real frustrating sometimes to deal with that aspect of it, but the truth is, more often than not, there's 15 years behind most of these overnight stars you hear about. Kind of rationalized about it, although, you know, on one hand, I felt, you know, kind of sorry about it, I suppose, on some levels, but the other hand, I figure, well, you know, I'm going to school, I'm putting my time in. At some point, that it's going to turn to you. Talent's going to win.
what about the reaction to Mask? Because firstly, the critical reaction, and secondly, the business reaction. Have you had?
It's been good. It's obviously made a difference. I've got a stack of scripts right here right now. 2 or 3 of them have got offers with them. And as far as the activity is concerned, yes, it's increased it. But the one thing that doesn't change is the quality of the material that's submitted to you. Good scripts are still few and far between. Most of the stuff I'm reading, I've already passed on it. You know what I mean? It's had a real solid career in television. And at the time right now, I mean, what I really would like to do is to do some more films, you know. Mask is going to help me do that because for the first time in my career, I'm what they call bankable to a certain degree.
Yeah.
That's kept me from getting a lot of jobs before this picture. I'm real happy to be home spending time with my wife and baby, you know, and I feel really lucky to be around here doing that.
Sure. Do you think that you've got a chance of an Oscar nomination?
To be real honest with you, you know, I mean, on another level, I don't even, you know, I mean, I don't think my performance warrants any kind of a nomination, but I think by virtue of the size that I'd say no. I don't think there's enough screen time in it.
Yeah.
Had some of those cuts not been made, then maybe I'd have had more, you know, I mean, there were several scenes that I was cut out of, or not that I was cut out of, but were eliminated from the film in the final cut. That could have made the difference, but I'm really not too sure.
Yeah. And what about over the years? Have you come close to getting some big roles?
I tested for Spielberg and Lucas for Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Right.
Came close. Spielberg wanted me. Lucas didn't want me, you know. And I've tested for a lot of pictures over the years, and it was always the guys that were around that have done the films before. Consistently, that's where I lost the jobs to.
Any other big ones at all?
Nothing worth talking about. North Dallas 40.
Oh yeah, Nick Nolte's picture.
Tested with Nick for the part that Mac, what the hell's his name, the singer, Mac.
Oh yeah, Mac Davis.
For a picture that Ryan O'Neal ended up getting a few years ago called Partners, which probably was just as well.
With John Hurt, yeah, I remember it.
Yeah. God, it was a great part. I think actually it was a great script, is what I'm saying. You know, I mean, whether the character was great or not, I don't know, but it was a great script that just it didn't get done.
How do you feel after you've come so close to something and then they say no? Have you just learned to take it, or is there still a little?
The trick is not taking all that too personally and looking at it like a business. I don't know what it sounds like, even as I say it. I'm not too sure that I can do that successfully every time, but this town is littered with bodies that take it personally.
Sure.
If you take it personally, you're not going to make it in the long run because it's real hard on you. And try to be realistic that it is a business and that what you're selling is, you know, I mean, you're out there selling yourself. That model might not be the one they're looking for, you know. I mean, it'd be real easy to sit around in a funk and think, well, Jesus Christ, nobody likes me. But, I mean, the sun doesn't rise and set with my next picture as far as I'm concerned. I waited till I was 40 years old to get married. I'm thankful that I did, and that really is the most important element of my life right now is my wife and baby.
Yeah. Is Catherine acting at all? I mean, apart from having the baby in the time.
I did a film down in Texas with Willie Nelson, a film called The Red-Headed Stranger. It's based on an album that Willie did 10 years ago. And it was a nice little picture, independent film, but it allowed her to get her feet wet again without really getting in over her head. You know, and I was down there babysitting. We had Cleo on the set with us. And it was real good. Catherine's one to work, but she's not one to just go out and work for work's sake. She's like the rest of us would like to do something good. You know?
Yeah.
She's in full bloom right now. I think Catherine looks better than she's ever looked. I think she's probably in a better frame of mind than she's been for a long time after having this baby. It's amazing what those little things can do for you.
Yes, certainly does, or certainly is. Well, listen, all the very best to both of you over there, and take care with those fires. I come from the bush, so at the age of 7 and 8, I was having to get out and fight bush fires with my dad, so I know exactly. And as I said, good luck with the career as well.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
Sam turns 82 later this year and continues to work in film and television. And a couple of bits of trivia. It was reported that he used his own Winchester 1894 rifle in the 2005 film Thank You for Smoking. In last year's US election, he urged men to vote for Kamala Harris and get over the woman thing. Well, that didn't work out.